Hi and welcome to This Old House. If your picnic table is showing its age, it might be time to build a new one, like this updated version made of naturally rot-resistant cedar. Check out the measured drawing and cut list on this webpage to pick up your materials. To get started, use your miter saw to cut the boards to length. For the first step, take a blank for the rails and clamp it across the corner of your work surface. You can put a piece of scrap board behind it to support the straight edge. Then use a router to make what's called a rabbet in the edge of the board. This is a little ledge that holds the slats in the frame. You'll want to make several passes with the router to get the full depth. Next, lay out the frame pieces, clamp them together, and use a combination square to make register marks at each of the joints. These will help you line up the frame later. Next, clamp your doweling jig flush with the edge of the rail. Drill a pair of dowel holes near each edge. Then drill matching holes in the sides of the stiles. Now to assemble the tabletop frame, apply glue to the holes of one rail, plug in the dowels, then apply glue to the stile and join the two pieces together. Follow the same steps at each joint along that stile, and then glue up the other stile and fit it into place. Now you've got a frame. Tighten a clamp over each rail to hold the frame in place, and then clean up the joints with a damp rag if there's any extra glue. Now to check the frame for square, measure diagonally corner to corner. If the measurements don't match, use a mallet to knock the frame back into square. Then you can tighten the clamps a little bit more. Now that the frame's built, you can get an accurate measurement for the slats and cut them to length. Once you've done that, clamp 4 slats together, clamp those to the table, and then use your router to cut a rabbet across the ends of the board. Again, you'll want to make several passes so you don't chew up the edges. Do the same thing on the other ends of those slats, route the other 4 slats as well. Once you're done routing, you can let the frame cure while you build the trestle base. Let's start with the feet. Mark the diagonal cut lines, then clamp a straight edge in place. Use a circular saw to make the cuts, then use that piece as a template for the other feet and brackets, 8 total. Now for the legs. With the spacer clamped between 2 leg boards, clamp a foot across the end. Countersink 4 holes and screw it in place. Rotate the leg and attach the other foot. Repeat the same process to install the other feet, as well as the table brackets. Now that you've got the leg assemblies built, stand them upright and slip the stretcher between the leg boards. Countersink holes and screw the stretcher in place. Now you've got a trestle. Tip it over on its side and install 2 pads on each foot. Alright, now back to the tabletop. Lay out 4 of the slats on blocks and fit the frame over it so that the routed edges meet. Here you can use the dowels to space out the slats. They're the perfect size. Now you want to countersink 2 pilot holes through the rail and into each slat. Screw the slats in place. And if you're using cedar like we are, be sure to use brass or stainless steel screws. Now you can put the table together. Lay the tabletop face down and stand the base right on top of it. You want an even inset on all sides. Use a piece of tape to mark the depth on your drill bit, then drill a countersink hole in the brackets. Screw the brackets in place. Alright, the table's done. How about some benches to match? To make the seat, first clamp 2 seat boards around spacers. Hold the breadboard against the ends and mark where they butt into it. These are guidelines for the doweling jig. Clamp your jig over a breadboard lined up with the outside edge. Drill 1 pair of holes, reposition the jig and drill 2 more, and then keep going until you have 4 pairs of holes altogether. For the bench seat boards, you'll make matching holes. Clamp the jig over the end, flush with one edge, and drill 2 holes. Then reposition the jig along the other edge and make another pair of holes. Once you're done with all your dowel holes, you can glue up the bench seat. To do that, you'll need to make a clamping jig. Screw a piece of scrap wood directly to your work surface at one end. Dry fit the parts of the seat together. Then screw a second piece of scrap at the other end, with a little gap for a wedge. Apply glue to the holes and dowels and fit the parts together. Lay the assembly into the jig and tap wedges into the gap to force the joints tight. Wipe off any excess glue with a wet rag and make sure you don't have any glue between the joint and the table or it will stick. Let the seat cure right there in the jig while you make the trestles. Now, since the parts are so small, you want to set up a stop block on your miter saw. To cut them, clamp each blank in place and clip the corners. Build the legs the same way you did for the picnic table and attach them with a stretcher. Once you have your trestle built, stand it upside down on the seat and center it side to side. Then position the middle bracket beneath the stretcher. Drill countersink holes into the two end brackets. Then drill pilot holes through those. Screw the brackets in place with deck screws. Now clamp the fifth bracket in place. Drill a countersink hole, then a pilot hole, then screw one end in place. Pop off the clamp and screw down the other end. Now you just have to build the other bench. After that, it's time to call some friends and fire up the barbecue. And feel free to enjoy a frosty cold beverage. You've earned it.